What's up, everybody? Welcome back to this week's short version episode of the Betting Booth podcast. Thank you so much for the support to this point. I very much appreciate it. We actually, since last episode, have achieved, had at one point, I'm not sure if it's had achieved at one point 100 subscribers. Right now it's down to 99, but we are very close to the live play-by-play for game. Once we get the achievement, then I'll start talking about possibilities of when I would do it. But for now, still just a possibility. We'll see what happens in the end. For this episode, I plan to cover the end of the MLB season, postseason predictions, scheduling with pitching matchups, World Baseball Classic Panama qualifiers wrap-up as that ended last night. Now on the best of games, college football recap, and weekly recap, and NFL weekly recap. So let's get into it. So MLB, just to wrap up the regular season, simple enough. Braves won the NL East. All the wildcard teams that were in it sealed their playoff spots, so nothing changed in the wildcard. And then outside of the spots being sealed up, Aaron Judge finally got to 62 home runs. Congratulations to him as he was able to pass Roger Maris in the record books for the most in American League history. Will not have, but not overall in MLB history, as to whether you agree with it or not, technically, to Barry Bonds. But anyways, that's the wrap-up of the regular season. So, postseason predictions. I'm going to go over the bracket in general before I give my predictions, but I am going to give full predictions for the MLB postseason, which is going to sound general, like kind of basic, but in some ways possibly, but this is how I feel it's going to go down. So, the AL bracket is as follows. The Astros are the 1 seed. They have a first-round bye. Followed by the Yankees, the 2 seed, they have a first round bye as well. Followed by the Guardians, who are the 3 seed, facing the 6 seed Rays in the wild card series. That will be completely in Cleveland. And then the Blue Jays and the Mariners, 4th and 5th seed respectively. Blue Jays will be completely hosting that wild card series. As in the American League and for the National League, the 1 seed is the Dodgers, the 2 seed is the Braves. Both are on first round byes. 3 seed is the Cardinals against 6 seed Phillies, who are in it for the first time since 2011, when they had the best record in MLB and fell to the Cardinals. And this will be actually a rematch of that NLDS in 2011. When the Cardinals eventually ended up winning the World Series. And then Mets are the 4 seed facing the 5 seed Padres. That series will be completely in New York, while the St. Louis series will be completely in St. Louis. That is the matchup. So let's go over predictions. Mariners, Blue Jays. This is going to be an interesting series. Blue Jays having postseason experience recently, having been in it last in 2020, versus the Mariners, who have made it for the first time since 2001, which is still crazy to be saying. But I think the Mariners are a hot team. I think they're the team you don't want to face in this postseason, and I think they will advance to face the Houston Astros in the ALDS. Guardians, Rays, which I will actually be at, possibly be at Game 1 of the series. And if I do, along with possibly being at a Browns game on Sunday, with Game 1 being tomorrow, by the way, and Browns game being on Sunday. And if I'm at both, I might even vlog and put it up for YouTube videos, so keep an eye out for that. But either way, they're facing the Rays. This is going to be a good series. But I do think Cleveland's a hotter team, and I think they're going to advance to the ALDS to face the Yankees. For the National League, Cardinals, Phillies rematch of the 2011 NLDS. I think the Cardinals are going to win, with it being Waino, Pujols, and Molina's last ride together. I think they'll at least get to the NLDS. And then Mets, Padres, which this is a tough series to predict because there's going to be some good pitching matchups throughout this series with Darvish, Musgrove, and Snell, and then Scherzer. I don't know who the other 2 starters would be possibly for the Mets because they're not starting DeGrom in this wildcard series, which in a way I hear it and in a way I don't, because they're basically playing as if they're going to be in the NLDS, which I don't think is so smart because the Padres are good enough that they could knock you out. And I especially know as a Cubs fan from wildcard series in the past that trying to don't assume anything, because the Cubs were the higher seed. They had the home field advantage the entire series and got swept by Miami in 2 games. So yeah, But either way, I have the Mets winning that series. Move on to NLDS. For the LDS matchups, ALDS, Astros versus Mariners, I have the Houston Astros. Even with how hot Seattle is, I still think Houston is better and will beat them. And then for Yankees Guardians, I have the Yankees advancing to the ALCS. So once again, I have the Astros Yankees in the ALCS. For the NLDS Dodgers Mets, I have the Dodgers. Mets had a nice run, but the Dodgers, I think, are the way better team. And then for Braves Cardinals, I have the Braves advancing to the NLCS. So for the ALCS rematch of 2019, Astros Yankees, I think the Yankees will get their revenge. I also don't want to really see the Astros in the World Series, but I think the Yankees will get their revenge and advance the World Series for the first time since 2009 when they won it against the Phillies. And then Dodgers Braves, part of me thinks Atlanta makes it back, because, Dodgers collapses in past, and part of me is but it's, the Dodgers, who, they've been ridiculous this year. They have a ridiculous team. I honestly think the Dodgers will fall flat at some point, and I think it's going to be the NLCS, and I have the Braves going back to the World Series. So I have Yankees versus Braves, but this time, unlike past years, oh boy, who do I even want to predict in this matchup? This is tough to predict. Because it's Braves who had a really good year once again. Honestly, I'm going to go Yankees. Could be saying that's New York biasy in a way, but that's my prediction. So I have the Yankees winning the World Series. And that is my MLB postseason predictions. Just going to go over general schedule with pitching matchups for the Wild Card Series. Not going to go into the NLDS. Obviously, some pitching matchups have been announced at the time of recording this at 9:44 a.m. on October 6th. Some have not been announced yet, and we'll get to that at some point soon. So, for Game 1 tomorrow, all three games are going to be back-to-back-to-back days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Times are going to be similar, I think, pretty much for all of them. And they will all be in the same location. So, for the first game tomorrow will be the Guardians hosting the Rays, 12:07 p.m. This game will be on ESPN. They will be all the wildcard games will be series games will be on either ESPN or ABC. The pitching matchup for Game 1 is Shane McClanahan versus Shane Bieber. I might be at this game, actually, as I said before. That will be at 12:07 p.m. The second game will be the Cardinals and Phillies game, 2:07 p.m. on ABC. Zach Wheeler starting for Philly. No official starter announced for St. Louis yet. Followed by the Mariners and Blue Jays, 4:07 p.m. on ESPN. Luis Castillo going for Seattle. Alek Manoah going for Toronto. Big part for that's going to help teams if they have to play in Canada. They dropped the vaccination requirement in Canada, which will very much help teams who might have players that are unvaccinated. And then the last game for the wild card series games, Game 1s, will be Mets-Padres, 8:07 on ESPN. Yu Darvish going for San Diego, and Max Scherzer going for the Padres. Games 2, first game, once again, 12:07 on ESPN2, though, this time, will be Rays at will be, once again, the Rays Guardians, Game 2. Tyler Glasnow is the only announced starter at this point for this game. The second game will this time be the Mariners at Blue Jays, 4:07 on ESPN. No starter has been announced for either team for that game yet. Then, followed by at 7:37 p.m. on ESPN, will be the Mets and the Padres. No starter's been... Well, I know Musgrove's actually been announced. I don't know about Mets per se for that yet. And then 8:37 p.m. on ESPN2 will be Phillies at Cardinals. Aaron Nola has been announced for Philly. Nothing announced for St. Louis yet. And if there is a Game 3, which there could be, and it could be all of them end in 2 games, first game would be at 2:07, Mariners at Blue Jays on ABC, followed by Rays at Guardians at 4:07 on ESPN. No one's been announced for the Seattle Mariners. Cleveland's announced Kyle Quantrill for Game 3. No one's been announced for Tampa Bay. Then would be the Padres at Mets at 7:37 p.m. on ESPN. No starter's been announced there. And Phillies at Cardinals, 8:37 p.m. on ESPN. Ranger Suarez has been announced for Philly. No starter announced yet for St. Louis. And that is the schedule for the Wild Card Series. I will be covering the postseason, obviously, as we go in episodes. So stay here to keep tight with the Wild Card Series. Before we move on to football department, next up, I want to talk about the World Baseball Classic, as the Panama qualifiers have happened since the last episode of the podcast. So Panama qualifiers, which was New Zealand, Brazil, Pakistan, Argentina, Panama, and Nicaragua. Friday started off the qualifiers. Brazil beat against New Zealand. Brazil won 12-7 on the back of a 6-run seventh to pretty much shut the door on New Zealand to win that game. Pakistan versus Argentina in the second game. Argentina won 7-4 to advance in the winner's bracket behind a 4-run sixth for Argentina. Saturday, Brazil beat Nicaragua 4-1 to advance in the winner's bracket to the last winner's bracket game to try to clinch a spot, while Panama came out big in their opener, winning 11-0 over Argentina in 7 innings behind a 6-run fifth that shut the door as Panama won to advance in the winner's bracket. Pakistan, Argentina on Sunday. Nicaragua shut out Pakistan 12-0 behind a 5-run fourth to advance in the loser's bracket, still having a chance, while Pakistan was sent home. New Zealand versus Argentina. Argentina won 4-1 behind a 4-run seventh to keep their hopes alive for advancing to the WBC. That was Sunday. Monday, there was no games. Tuesday, the losers bracket finale. Nicaragua versus Argentina. Nicaragua won 6-5 to advance the last possible game to try to make it into the WBC behind a 3-run sixth for Nicaragua. And then Brazil, Panama, the winner's bracket finale. Winner advances. Loser has still one more shot. Panama shut out Brazil behind a 2-run homer behind a big 2-run home run early from Jose Ramos, winning 4-0 and advancing to WBC for, I think, first time since like 2009 or something. 2009, yeah. And then in the final game, Nicaragua versus Brazil, Nicaragua won 3-1. Pretty much had the game from beginning to end. Brazil had some things here and there, but was not able to do much with them. And Nicaragua advances to WBC for the first time ever. So the teams that qualified from the qualifiers are Nicaragua, Panama, Great Britain, and Czech Republic. As of right now, at the time of recording, they have not announced who's going to be in what qualifier yet. They have just only said that we just know who's qualified. We don't know who is going to be in what pool of the bracket yet. But once it is known, I will talk about it on the podcast. Until then, don't know anything, and we'll just leave it there. So let's talk about college football. This week had some interesting stuff in the top 25. Let's get into it. I actually didn't even realize this till I just saw this, but UCLA beat number 15 Washington 40-32. Georgia almost lost to Missouri. They ended up coming back to win, but Missouri had them on their tails. Almost was able to pull off the upset, but Georgia came back to win 26-22. Alabama pretty much wrecked Arkansas 49-26. Number 2 Alabama, number 20 Arkansas. Michigan against Iowa, a rematch of last year's Big Ten championship game. Michigan won again 27-14 at Iowa this time. Number 4 Michigan. Number 5 Clemson beat number 10 North Carolina State 30-20. Number 14 Ole Miss beat number 7 Kentucky 22-19. Mississippi State beat number 17 Texas A&M 42-24. TCU beat number 18 Oklahoma 55-24. Purdue beat number 21 Minnesota 20-10. Georgia Tech beat number 24 Pitt 26-21. And that is all the big headlines from college football this past week. So now for the rankings. Covering all the games that have happened. covering the rankings completely with how they've changed since the last rankings that came out. So Alabama moved up to 1 with Georgia almost losing. Georgia moved down to 2. Ohio State stays at 3. Michigan stays at 4. Clemson stays at 5. USC staying at 6. Oklahoma State going up from 9 to 7. Tennessee staying at 8. Ole Miss going up from 14 to 9. Penn State going up from 11 to 10. Utah going up from 12 to 11. Oregon going up from 13 to 12. Kentucky going down from 7 to 13. And North Carolina State going down from 10 to 14. Wake Forest going up from 22 to 15. BYU going up from 19 to 16. TCU newly ranked at 17. UCLA newly ranked at 18. Kansas newly ranked at 19. They are undefeated, which is crazy to be saying. Kansas State going up. Sorry. From 25 to 20. Washington going down from 15 to 21. Syracuse newly ranked at 22. Mississippi State newly ranked at 23. Cincinnati newly ranked at 24. And LSU newly ranked at 25. Dropped out of the rankings a bunch of teams. Baylor, who last week was ranked 16. Texas A&M, who was last week ranked 17. Oklahoma, who was last week ranked 18. Arkansas, who was last week ranked number 20. Minnesota, who was last week ranked 21, newly ranked last week. Florida State, who was ranked 23, and Pittsburgh, who was ranked 24 last week. That is a changing in the rankings, and that is college football recap for this week. So now for the NFL weekly recap of week 4, and I will also have week 5 predictions, and that's going to be it for the podcast, for today's short video for the podcast. So let's get right into it. Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa went down again with a major head and neck injury. I think he's gonna be out for a bit. He looked scared, rough on the play when he got hurt. I hope everything's okay. I hope he's good and just recovers and doesn't come back so quickly. But Bengals won 27-15. Vikings sinks the London game. The Vikings won literally on a double doink that went off the upright and off the crossbar to win over the Saints 28-25. The Browns lost to the Falcons embarrassingly 23-20. They just couldn't take advantage of things. Bills down 20-3 came all the way back to win 23-20. The Seahawks and Lions in a back and forth game. Seahawks won 48-45. Chargers bounced back after the Jaguars lost to win 34-24. In a sloppy game where the Giants lost both their starting quarterbacks, in Danny Dimes and Tyrod Taylor, they still beat the Bears 20-12. After going up 14-0, the Eagles put up too many points for the Jaguars to handle, winning 29-21. The Jets came back against the Steelers with Zach Wilson's first game and Kenny Pickett actually getting involved. 24-20. In a game where the Patriots were already without Mac Jones and Brian Hoyer went down and were down to Bailey Zappi, actually managed to take the Packers into overtime and had a lead in regulation. The Packers tied it and won in overtime 27-24. The Chiefs absolutely pounded the Buccaneers this week 41-31 and capped off by a pick six. The 49ers beat the Rams 24-9. That is this week's general recap of week 5. Week 4. My prediction record for this past week was 10-5. Might be 10-6 actually. No, I think it's 10-6. With my total record now being 36-26-1. Week 5 predictions, Thursday Night Football, tonight's game, Indianapolis Colts at the Denver Broncos. This is a tough game to predict, but once I realized that Jonathan Taylor's going to be out enough for me, even with Russell Wilson and Broncos struggling, I have Broncos winning that game. Sunday starts with a London game, Giants of the Packers, easy decision, especially with the Giants going to be probably down to a third-string quarterback. Packers, I have winning that game. Steelers at Bills, I have the Bills. Chargers at Browns, which even with me being at this game and a Browns fan, I still think the Chargers are going to win this game, even without Joey Bosa. Bears at Vikings, I have the Vikings. Lions at Patriots, I have the Patriots. Seahawks at Saints, I have the Saints. Dolphins at Jets, I have the Dolphins. Falcons at Buccaneers, which is actually a battle for first place, which is crazy to be saying. I have the Buccaneers. Titans at Commanders, I have the Titans. Texans at Jaguars, I have the Jaguars. 49ers at Panthers, I have 49ers. Cowboys at Rams, I have the Rams. Eagles at Cardinals, I have the Eagles. Sunday Night Football, Bengals at Ravens, I have the Bengals. And then Monday Night Football, Raiders at Chiefs, I have the Chiefs. That is my predictions for Week 5 games in the NFL. We will see what happens and then have a coverage of it at some point next week. And then before I go, that is for all for predictions and for NFL. And then standings update actually for NFL. In the AFC East, Dolphins and Bills are both tied for first place at 3-1, followed by the 2-2 Jets, followed by the 1-3 Patriots. The AFC North, everyone but the Steelers are tied at 2-2 for first place in the division, followed by the Steelers, who are 1-3. For the AFC South, both the Jaguars and Titans are 2-2, followed by the 1-2-1 Colts, followed by the 0-3 Texans. The AFC West, the Chiefs in first place at 3-1, followed by 2-2 both Chargers and Broncos, followed by the 1-3 Raiders. That's for the NFC. For the NFC East, Eagles in first place at 4-0, followed by the 3-1 Cowboys and 3-1 Giants, followed by the 1-3 Commanders. For the NFC North, the Vikings and Packers both tied for first place at 3-1, followed by the 2-2 Bears, followed by the 1-3 Lions. For the NFC South, the Buccaneers and the Falcons both have a 2-2 record, followed by the Panthers and Saints both having a 3-3 record. And then for the NFC West, everyone has a 2-2 record. That is for NFL. And then some NBA headlines as we have preseason starting. Preseason has started. Not going to cover preseason. We'll only start truly covering games once the regular season starts. But the Thunder traded Derek Favors, Ty Jerome, Mo Harkless, Theo Maledon, and a 2025 second-round pick to Houston for David Nwamba, Sterling Brown, Trey Burke, and Marquise Chris. And then Tyler Hero signed a 4-year, $130 million extension with the Miami Heat. Also, some other news I forgot to write down. Myles Garrett returned to practice for the first time since the car crash. Blake Bortles retired, which that came out of nowhere. Cole Beasley also retired, didn't even end up playing a game for the Buccaneers. The Royals have announced that manager Mike Matheny and pitching coach Cal Aldred will not return next year. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this week's episode of the podcast. If you are new on YouTube, subscribe down below and leave a notification bell on so you're notified when I go live or post a video. If you are listening via audio, follow the podcast. Leave a review. Hit the notification bell on so you're notified when I post on there, which is soon after I post on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good Shabbos. Have a good Sukkot, and I'll see you after Sukkot with the next update. Bye.